Let's get away from the general and get into some specifics. All over this country, people are sick and tired of paying the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. In some cases, we pay 10, 20 times more for the same exact product sold abroad. My committee, the Health, Education, Labor Committee, has been working on this. You have been working on this. You have been dealing with something called the Orange Book. You're one of 3 people in America who knows what the Orange Book is. What have you been doing? What is the Orange Book? How does that have to do with manipulating the patent system, etc.?
The Orange Book is this obscure repository of patents. And what it means is if a big pharma company lists their patent in the Orange Book, they can automatically block competition. They can keep generics out of the market.
This is a new development, right? So-called.
Yes, a new development. Say there's a new company on the market that wants to offer the same drug but at a lower price, right, at a cheaper price.
So what did a pharmaceutical company do to prevent that?
They can list in the Orange Book their patent in a way that will block that newer, cheaper company from coming onto the market. And what our team at the FTC found was that there are all sorts of medical products that have been around for decades. Take the inhaler, the asthma inhaler. Over 40 million Americans rely on asthma inhalers. These inhalers have been around since the 1950s. And in America, people routinely pay over $500 for an inhaler, even though in other countries, consumers are paying as little as $20. And so our team took a close look.
Let me interrupt you. Everybody hear that? $500, $20. Continue.
Our team took a close look, and we believed that one reason companies were able to do this is because they were listing bogus patents in the Orange Book. And so last fall, we sent them letters saying we think these patents are illegitimately listed. Under your leadership, the Senate Help Committee also made clear to these asthma inhaler manufacturers that there may have been some patent tricks going on. And as a result, a whole set of these companies, 3 of the 4 manufacturers, recently announced that they're either delisting these patents and are going to cap how much Americans pay out of pocket to no more than $35, which is pretty remarkable, but also quite troubling that it took so long to get here, and that for years, Americans have been paying inflated prices for these essential products.
Well, I'm sure you have heard from people all over this country. Asthma is a very serious issue. COPD, very serious issue. People need these inhalers in order to stay alive. And as you've indicated, people paying outrageous prices, and I'm glad we were able to at least deal with 3 out of the 4. We're working on the 4th, that's Teva, and we'll see what we can do with them. But we do have, as of June 1st, 2 out of the 3 will be implementing policies no more than $35 at your pharmacy. GlaxoSmithKline will take a little bit longer. All right, let me go to, while we're on prescription drugs, an issue of concern to me, a lot of talk about pharmacy benefit managers, PBMs. You're working on that as well.
We are.
All right, what are you doing there?
So pharmacy benefit managers are, again, these obscure players, but basically they're these middlemen. So they determine who gets access to what medicines and at what price. And we
back that up. I mean, that's an extraordinary statement. Who gets access to one would assume, right, that all of us have access, right? It's the marketplace. All of us would have access to all of the great drugs that are on the market, right? Not the case?
Not the case. I mean, what these PBMs help determine is when you go to the pharmacy, what medicines can you access at the pharmacy? And we have been hearing at the FTC a whole set of complaints. One of these complaints is that the medicines that are made available at the pharmacy are not the most affordable medicines for Americans, but it's actually the medicines on which the PBMs are getting the biggest kickback from the drug manufacturer.
Technical term is rebate, but I like your term better.
Technical term is rebate. Some people say these may be kickbacks, which is a really troubling allegation, because the whole point of our drug system is supposed to be that when patents expire, cheaper generics are supposed to come onto the market. And once they're on the market, Americans are supposed to be able to get access to those
Is that
generics.
how it's supposed to work?
That's how it's supposed to work.
I'm only chairman of the committee. I didn't know. No. Of course, it doesn't work like that. There's massive amounts of lack of transparency, price manipulation. It is a very, very broken system.
And so we've heard concerns that even once you have these generics on the market, that when Americans go to the pharmacy, they only have access to the expensive branded version and not the generics. And one reason some people say is because of some of these rebates and kickbacks at the PBM. So we at the FTC are scrutinizing that. The other set of concerns we've heard is that these PBMs may be squeezing independent pharmacies. And so these PBMs over the last few decades have both horizontally consolidated, so 3 major PBMs now control over 80% of the market, but they've also what's known as vertically integrated. So they now have merged with health insurers, and they also now have their own mail order pharmacies. And so we hear from independent pharmacies that that creates a conflict of interest, because you have your community pharmacies that are now dependent on these PBMs, but they're also competing with them. And so we hear that PBMs sometimes impose all sorts of arbitrary fees on independent pharmacies. I was just in Philadelphia the other week meeting with local pharmacists, and they were sharing some of them have been in business for decades, but they're on the cusp of going bankrupt.
Yep.
And of these pharmacy deserts emerging in local communities because some of these tactics and potentially coercive practices by the PBM. So we at the FTC, a couple of years ago announced a public inquiry into this. We have that investigation ongoing, and in the coming weeks and months, we'll be able to share publicly what we've been doing on that.
Okay, this is enormously important work. Unbelievably, 1 out of 4 Americans cannot afford to purchase the prescriptions that doctors prescribe. And that is insane. And it has a lot to do with the greed of the pharmaceutical industry. Also, I think the manipulations of PBM. So